Okay, dear all, I think we could start. This is the second day of our core main conference and the fourth day of the conference of RED as a project, yeah, because we have some thematic conferences before from Monday. And I think let me introduce Professor Grzegorz Gorzelak from EuroRec, from University of Warsaw, one of the most famous regionalists in our country. I think that Professor will talk very interesting on our themes. Professor, the floor is yours. Please come here.
I try to put it here. Can you hear me? Okay. I am going to go beyond the scope of my professional interests because it will not be about regional development, it will not be about local development, it will be about something which we all recently experienced, I think. Where is my mouse? Why doesn't it work? Where is the cursor? Cursor is gone. Oh, here it is. Sorry, there are some technical problems. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. That's a good proof of uncertainty because I was sure it would be working very properly. Oh, here it is, okay. I don't have it on my screen because on my screen I don't have Just a moment. Mogą mi panowie pomóc może? Dlatego, że although it's not very directly but rather vaguely related to the fourth industrial revolution, what is it? What are the definitions? What are the attitudes, not only in science but also in literature? I would be quoting some phrases from one of my favorite author, Jack London. Maybe you remember, the younger people don't remember Jack London, but my generation would remember the famous American writer. Why does it happen? What are the reasons? And this could be perhaps a relation to the Industrial Revolution and to technological change. How do we experience it? Why do we talk? Why do we see uncertainty as a phenomenon? And can we do anything with it? Let's start why this subject. Whenever we listen to TV, whenever we read something in newspapers, whenever we listen to the radio, that's the phrase which is very often quoted. That we are living in very uncertain times, that we don't know what's going to happen. One of the statements is that the turn of the epochs between something and something, but we don't know what this something that we are living in is, and we are not sure what something that we are going to enter into would be in the future. It's hard to predict what's going to happen next year, not only in terms of politics, but also in terms of technology, and I will deliver some proofs that that's a correct phrase. There are changes which are happening too fast, and we as humans, even intellectuals, even educated people, very often have problems in understanding what the change is going about. And there are some phenomena and processes which are totally unexpected, and we'll come back to this. I heard Professor Norman Davies a few days ago after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And he said that after the death of the Queen, we are going to have a catalog of catastrophes. And people in United Kingdom are not sure what's going to happen with this country. Will Northern Ireland join Ireland? Will Scotland declare independence? Will Scotland perhaps become the new member of the European Union? England and Wales will be together or not? So UK is challenged, Great Britain is challenged, Commonwealth is challenged, and there are some, I don't know, 12, 14 countries in the Commonwealth, to which the Queen Elizabeth II used to be the head of their countries. Nobody can predict what may happen. And just a symbolic phenomenon, death of the Queen, may trigger some processes which will be very deep, very profound, and very influential, and they will influence lives of several million of people. And we don't know what's going to happen. If you look at the election results, very often have 50-50 split. We are talking about tribal politics, that there is no dialogue, but there is hate between the tribes, which support this or that candidate. Brexit, 52-48. Polish presidential election, 51-49. US, 56-48, 46. Next presidential, the same. Sweden, there could be 1 or 2 votes of majority, and this could be a 0-1 result. We have post-truth, we have fake news, we have manipulations. We don't know how deep the manipulations are. We all know that Russia intervened in Brexit, and we all know that Russia intervened in presidential elections in the United States. But we don't know if they had any real impact. We may just assume they had. But in such a narrow margin, there could be an impact which could switch 0-1 relation. Once again, we are totally uncertain what is happening in politics, when we are even more uncertain what will happen in world politics, what will happen in our own politics. Of course, we cannot live in a world which can be totally predictable, because even evolution is based on genetic mistakes of uncertain solutions. Had there been no genetic mistakes, we wouldn't have evolution. The world would be static, stagnant. But the problem is that when uncertainty becomes too great, too big, we are having a feeling of insecurity, and we are losing our confidence in our own lives and the lives of our societies, of our nations, of our governments, of the institutions, and so on. So there is a kind of a very delicate balance between what's certain, what's uncertain, how much we should be able to predict, and how much we can leave to something which is unexpected. So there is a kind of a balance, but my thesis, and the reason why I choose this topic for our presentation today, is that this balance has now moved more to the uncontrolled, unneeded, detrimental uncertainty than some kind of predictability and confidence in what's going to happen. What is it? Next question. There are several scientific definitions. Imperfect unknown information, partially observable or stochastic environments. It may arise in a number of fields, in everything, in psychology, economics, sociology, engineering, methodology. The engineers are checking if the bridge is not going to collapse, so they have some tests because they are uncertain when they constructing the bridge. So they are looking for some kind of confidence in their production. And what's important, and I think that, then when Ulrich Beck, whom I'm going to quote in a few minutes' time, used the risk society, it's going beyond this very formal definition that uncertainty is an immeasurable phenomenon, and when we can measure its risk. So, of course, Ulrich Beck was talking about something which is not measurable, but we coined the phrase, and he became a very famous author. In literature, it's a very nice quote from Jack London. He wrote a short novel, Unexpected, in 1906. And unexpected rarely happens. It's simple to see the obvious and to do the expected, but very often the unexpected may attack us, and we have to cope with it. And the phrase which is made in bold, the unfit perish. Those who cannot adapt, adjust to something which is unexpected, they perish. And we are following our normal lines of life. We are following our traditions, but then when we are confronted with something which is unexpected, we may even die, because we come to what London called own groove. Groove is, I checked because he didn't know the word, it's something, a row, something which is, we follow, so, but it's also used, it means a habit or kind of normal activities that we can repeat. 1906, over 100 years ago. I like this quote very much. Why does it happen? Why do we witness, to my mind, increased levels of uncertainty? First of all, you all know the book of Taleb, The Black Swan, the impact of highly improbable. The rare events equals uncertainty. And in social processes, we have more uncertainty than in any other phenomena in other sphere, the physical one, because they are informational and they are, as Taleb is saying, they are not restricted, they are not comparable, they are not measurable, and they don't have any kind of limits. Information can be created, can be spread, and physical phenomena, physical processes, physical entities have their limitations, physical limitations. He also points that elections and referendums, the political events which influence us every day are not about what we know, but about what we think, about what we feel. So that's a kind of, once again, unexpected process that is happening, and we are all subordinate to the election results, 50-50, very narrow margins. And how to live in a world, Taleb asks if we are confronted with growing levels of uncertainty. I tried to make a kind of a drawing, a figure related to the hunter, who is someone who knows, or it's us who know, and the black swans which appear somewhere and we have to shoot them. Shooting is, once again, I am not a promoter of shooting the black swans, even any other birds, as they are doing in Malta, as you know. They are shooting the birds which are flying north from Africa to Europe. It's a kind of national, let's put Malta aside. And humans achieved several times more technological development in the past 150 years than during the previous 2,000 years. And I propose a hypothesis that this technological development is the factor which creates uncertainty. And please consider this hypothesis. Here is we are somewhere here. We are with the fourth industrial revolution here, because it ends on 2008. But is it progress? Is it progress? That's a question mark. In several spheres of life, it's progress, but it has some kind of adverse results which are dealt with the main topic of my presentation, this uncertainty. Technology. Harari, a kind of a contemporary prophet. I am not very fond of his prophecies, of his knowledge about everything, because he seems to know everything, even more than everything. But some quotes of him, I think, are interesting. We may, due to data algorithms, create digital dictatorships. That's once again a danger, because those who know have more knowledge and they can control those who don't know. In technology, information, biotechnology, according to Harari, are the two major directions of technological change. Knowledge illusion. We know that we know a lot, but perhaps the more we know, the less we can cope with it, what we know. Because it's an illusion that we do know. Very often, we don't know. Ulrich Beck, a late author who at the end of the 90s came forward with the book, The Risk Society, was saying that technology creates risks and uncertainty. Technology. And risk society is a systematic way of dealing with hazard and so on. Environmental risks, which we have created ourselves. It's not nature which created environmental risks. It's us. It's the mankind. It's humanity. And he's saying about manufactured risk created by people. And he also asked a question, can we create a kind of a cosmopolitan, that means global management system, which can cope with the risks that we have created as humanity? It's a rhetoric question, but we cannot, or till now we were not able to do it. So there are more and more these ones, and we have some kind of attempts to shoot them, but as I was saying, the more we know, the more we produce this unexpected phenomena. And there's a moment when there are too many of them, and we even cannot notice some of them, and they are bypassing and created our feeling of insecurity and instability. How do you experience it? You know all these pictures. It's taken from the internet. We have some typhoons, we have forest fires, we have waves, tsunami, we have melted glaciers, we have dried lakes and rivers and so on, we have floods. It's all that is the result of the climatic change, but then we have externalities in weather, and we cannot predict it. We cannot predict it. We are very unsecure what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, because we may be flooded, we may be sunburned, we may be taken by wind and so on. Here is we operate at the end, we forget the beginning. There was a very nice film which was sent over the internet, that a customer was approached by the shop attendant, and she said, look, or he, you should have a paper bag and don't use the plastic bag, because we should protect the environment. Okay, it's the end. But if we look at the increase of electricity consumption, if we look at the increase of petrol consumption, if we look at the way how we pack our food, and in this short film it was remembered that some time ago, younger people don't know it, don't remember it, milk was delivered in glass bottles, and these glass bottles were taken back and they were reused several times. And energy consumption was much lower than producing and so on and so on. So we are now dealing at the end of the process, but we have forgot about what caused this process and these hazards of environmental dangers. North-South divide. Over 100 million people were forced to leave their homes during the last 10 years. It's by 2018, so several million should be added. And you see they are coming from Africa, they are coming from Middle East, they are coming from Congo, they are coming from Sri Lanka and different other places, and they are moving to where they can feel more secure and they have less uncertainty. Then we have migrations from Southern America, Latin America, and once again, it's 6 million people, and in the States, there are several people, several localities when English is not spoken. I remember I, by chance, was in Washington one day when there was a manifestation in order to make the illegal immigrants legalized. And a gentleman was speaking in Spanish, and he was translated into English because there were several people who didn't know Spanish in Washington and so on. So there is also 25,000 people perished during crossing the Mediterranean Sea. 25,000. Those who were looking for their chances in Europe and they lost their lives. Will Europe have at least 200 million migrants in the near future from different continents? We are very likely to witness this in the next 20, 50 years. Nigeria, 100 million people. Ethiopia, 100 million people. Congo. And these people are seeking more stability, more security in Europe. And once again, we don't know if it's going to happen, and we definitely know how to cope with it. Should we shoot to the people who are in the boats on Mediterranean? Should we build any bridges? Fences, I mean, not bridges, some walls? How can we bring walls around the islands? We can bring the wall between Poland and Belarus, or between Israel and Palestine, or Gaza, or between, but there are, tunnels and so on and so on. So we cannot cope with it. Total surprise of COVID-19. According to some estimates, there were from 14 to 20 million excess deaths. Only 6.5 million of direct deaths, but up to 20 million of excess deaths due to COVID. COVID created poverty, because this is the number of poor people who grew, and this is the number of rich people which declined. So we didn't expect that COVID would emerge, and we didn't cope with the pandemic itself and with the consequences of the pandemic. Ken Follett, one of my favorite authors, when I go to some holidays, vacation, I take a book of Ken Follett. I will quote another one in a moment. Wrote in 2004 a whiteout, short book about the virus which was stolen by terrorists. Bill Gates in 2015 provisioned, foresaw that pandemic may come. This year he wrote a book, published a book, that how to prevent the next pandemic. And very recently in Russia there were some voices that perhaps we shall use tactical weapons. In 2021, once again, Ken Follett published a book, it's in Polish, Never, which shows how the process of 1914, the outburst of the First World War, that nobody wanted to have this war, all of a sudden may repeat itself, but now in the magnitude of the nuclear war. It's a terrifying book. Youth unemployment. Yesterday we were talking about the labor market. In Greece, 1/3 of population in bracket 15-24 are neither in schooling, neither in work, and they are seeking work. 1/3. That insecurity, that uncertainty, they don't know what to do with their lives. We have Spain, we have Italy, we have Sweden, we have Portugal, we have Romania. So these are the countries where uncertainty of younger generation, which may repeat itself in next years, is very strong. Let me quote myself. I very recently wrote a foreword to the book we are publishing about the territorial effects of European policies in Poland. And I ended this foreword with a statement that, yes, we have several results, but these results sometimes are not following exactly the same statement, the same profile. Because we may use different data, we may use different territorial units, we may use different methods, we may have different interpretations. So we are insecure, we are uncertain about our results in social sciences. Once again, that's another dimension of uncertainty. I'm not certain if you are going to like my presentation as well, but it's another story. And can we do anything with it? Will the fourth industrial revolution bring positive, negative consequences? One hypothesis that it will deepen uncertainty. Neo-Malthusian catastrophe may happen, that mankind, humanity will come to the moment when we shall reduce the number of people living on this earth. Is the burden of environmental change and come back to some 2,000 years or 1,000 years ago. Another hypothesis is that the fourth industrial revolution can save humanity for self-destruction. And coming back to what London said, shall we be fit enough not to perish? You remember, he said, those who are not fit enough, they perish. Shall we be fit enough not to perish? So the choices are ours, and you may think, and we may think, if we are going to make a right choice, and even if we can make a choice itself, if we are not in a kind of a self-fulfilling negative prophecy without any possibility of maneuvering and of reversing the negative processes that we have entered as humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Grzelak, for your very interesting presentations. And now we have the time for our panel. So I will invite our guests. So Professor Salvatore Jacomusi, is Professor Wojciech Paprocki, please. Okay, and we will have the first speaker. I hope he comes. It will be Dr. Krzysztof Głódz. We are a little bit before the schedule. 5 minutes. The session should start in 5 minutes. So I will use it to introduce our guests. The first speaker, it's Professor Salvatore Jacomusi. He has wide experience in university work. He was connected with University of Innsbruck, University in Bolzano. Now he's connected with the University of Poltava, where he's the head of the Center for Behavioral Economics. And also connected with the University of Lvov. He's expert in human behavior and many other aspects. The second, our guest is Professor Wojciech Paprocki, the director of the Institute of Infrastructure, Transport and Mobility at the Warsaw School of Economics. This is the oldest economic university in Poland. And he's making the research connected with the global uncertainty, immobility, digitization and economy and society, and of course connected with the dilemmas of the transport development in the 21st centuries. Okay, and I hope our next speaker will join us. And before I will start to give comments to our panelists. Maybe you can sit here. It will be more convenient if you sit here, and you will see. Just a few comments connected with the topics which we want to discuss. So we will refer to the problem of face detection and recognition system. It is something what we feel quite often. We have such situation at the airport when nobody is checking our documents, only the system is checking our faces. So there is a big global database where our informations are included. We will talk about the consequences of it in different levels because they are connected with also with the ordinary life. Nice to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Krzysztof Guc. Please come here. Dr. Guc is connected with our university. Yeah, he's the Director of Resources and Development in our institutions, but also he's the Head of City Council and Nowy Sącz. Nowy Sącz is the third biggest city in our region, so he's also a practitioner. Before he was connected with the National Louis University, and he makes the research in the public services and local economy. So welcome here. So we have now our three guests for the panel. So just only a few comments about the topics which we'll refer. So face detection and recognition system and all its positive and negative consequences. Yeah, the obvious negative consequences is the social credit system in China. Yeah, you can see that the very wide network of cameras in public space, and you can receive positive and negative points. It depends on how do you behave. So something what is very useful in our condition in more democratic countries could be also used in an improper way. So the technologies have direct faces, two faces, the positive and negative, and depends on our democratic control how we use these sources. The example of the digital usage of is connected also with the art. We will not refer it, but we should remember here you can see at the picture it's the virtual digital college which was sold by $69 million. Yeah, so very high price for something what exists only in virtual form, and you can buy non-fungible tokens. Yeah, so you know, very new challenge for the art market. We don't know if the people are ready to pay for something what has only virtual character. And when you look at this map here, it's the real-time map connected with the problems of usage of the digital economy with the hackers. Yeah, so the last example, hospital in the city of in France, near Paris, attacked in August, and the hackers expected $10 million to put again the functioning of the public service institution. So the hospital the action was paralyzed. It was not possibility to make the operation or nothing because the system was blocked. And there are several examples of such behavior. The quite famous connected with the colonial pipeline in United States. And what is very pity that they expected to pay and the company paid the money. Yeah? So this company paid $4 million American dollar in Bitcoin just to be able to function again. So we see many problems like that, connected also with the German chemical distribution company, and also unfortunately it was paid. So we have many different situations when how we can use the new technologies. But the first question which I would like to ask our guests is connected with the usage of new technologies in higher education. It will be possible soon to evaluate students' activity by usage of different algorithms which will verify the correctness of performance. Also, it is what is quite soon. In the longer perspective, it will be even the very bad possibility to looking at the human thoughts, which now you know that we can use the computer by our brain, so it's not necessary to use any hands and give simple comments by our brain to use this computer. It is now used in a very positive way because it's used for the handicapped people who want to communicate, but they cannot do it because they cannot speak or they cannot use their hands. So we can use it in a positive and negative way. So the first question is connected with referring to usage to new technologies, if they are ethical or they will increase the effectiveness of our education, and what can we do to adjust it into our university practice. So maybe let's start from the right side, the Professor Jacomusi. I will take the microphone.
Yeah? Okay, it's fine. Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. Maybe regarding the algorithms of judging the efforts of students, just like me I'd like to make a short input. Regarding driving licenses in Austria, the students are already judged for years by computers. So there are no professors or no professionals asking you something about the car or asking you something about traffic problems or traffic signs. No, the student has to sit on the computer and has to have a range about 90% or 85% of right answers. It's a multiple choice test, and if you pass the technical test and the answers or the forensic answers, the candidate is going to drive the car. So they are already judged by the computer for algorithms, and the computer, according to certain algorithms, is changing the questions. So the students have to learn about more than 1,000 questions, more than thousands, more or less, and have to prepare those questions for the exam. So that's already a reality in Austria since years. And we have, on this side, we have very good results, because in former times, people who were asking you those questions were sometimes very negative, sometimes very positive, something neutral, and sometimes very nasty. And so we avoided a lot of problems introducing computer systems asking students about the regulation in traffic.
Thank you. Professor Wojciech Paprocki.
I have following remark to the university. Should we, as teacher, deliver to students the knowledge? And is it our task to prove if they learn this on the proper way, fully complex? or we should change our approach, and we should say to young people, come on, go ahead, we can help you, but it depends on your auto-motivation, what are you going to do? And when I learn that in the modern company, not in company working with new technologies, but for example in the retail company, which of course is active in e-commerce as well, but also in omnichannels. It means also in analog traditional network of retail shops. That in such companies today there is suggestion. 10% of your job time, you and we all together will spend together at the same place on site. 30% we will spend in the virtual world, connected online in the network at the same time, and 60% of your job will be provided by you alone as a single player with the open possibility to connect to each other when you need it. And when I see we should train our students to be successful manager in such company, then I have to say, perhaps we should change our fundamental rules, how the university, especially School of Economics, works. Because this, what we do today, I can tell only in the name of SGH. We came back, or we will come in next week, on the 1st of October, we will come back to the 20th century in our regulations. We are all together in huge aula, auditory. We have to be present all the time everywhere, so it means we lose time for not the proper job, and this is the standard which we continue in 2022, in the autumn of this year.
Thank you very much. Good.
First of all, I agree that this is about paradigm shift. And I can promise you that we will come back to the auditorium out of 20th century, not 21st. That is one of the problems. But we need the paradigm shift. Now, regarding, looking at the question, I would say that technologies just support what we do. They don't do things for instead of us. It all depends on teachers, and I still believe that teachers are the most important. K-12 academic teachers, they are the most important. Someone has to program the computer if the computer is to teach. That's one thing. So in a short term, not much will change. But on the other hand, I would say that on the long term, universities will disappear in the way we understand them, we know them. And that means, well, I'll give you an example. Currently, companies that are located in Krakow, from BPO sector, from shared services, are hiring like crazy in high schools. Why? Because they don't need graduates from universities for the purposes they have. They prefer to have a 19-year-old young person What they need is language and computer skills. And they will train the rest. Of course, by the end of the day, it will appear that, in fact, those people are not capable of doing complicated things, and maybe some of them will come back to some form of higher education, but not necessarily all of them. I made, and just a private anecdote. When my older son finished his bachelor's degree, he said he wanted to go for master's program. I asked him, what program? The same I finished, that was business management. Which university? The same university. And I said, over my dead body. And I convinced him to go to work. After 9 years, he started talking about coming back to the university. But he knows exactly what he needs, and he knows exactly where he wants to go. So, in fact, in the future, I believe that universities will disappear and will become more retraining centers, of course, place of research, but in terms of teaching, retraining centers for adults, for people coming back from the real world to get new experience and advance. And technologies will be used in companies to train people. And they will be behaving like universities, maybe not granting degrees, but by the end of the day, do you need a degree to work somewhere? Very often not.
I can underline that completely, because I worked also as a counselor for Volkswagen, as a real big German industries, car factories, and they are hiring universities, and they say to them, hey, look, we need a bachelor course for that for our workers, for our employees. We need a master course for that. Can you manage that? We're going to arrange it in our factory. So that's the way it goes now, at least in Germany. So they are seeking the universities who are offering the right courses, which they need.
But we need to change our courses to answer the needs.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I disagree. We have young people, 19 years old, after the secondary school. And we should consider that they work at school, in the classroom, in a group of 35, 40 persons at the moment in Polish towns. So there is no possibility to create so-called soft talents, soft competence. And as I remember, it was far time ago, as I was student. And I remember that I try to limit time to study, because I was sure that it was lost time to read a book, to go to the library. No. As you know, I finished the university. I prolonged my study until now. But at this time, as I was a young boy, it was for me not so interesting. I was fully engaged in the life of students' community. And in this period, before you have wife, before you have children, before you have these everyday obligations, you can afford to be in community. So please, don't stop this future for young people. University is institution to give this possibility.
Well, I agree and disagree. It is. But do we truly offer the possibility for community life? It's changing very fast. Young people, students, they go outside and find jobs. They're not interested. They are interested in taking different positions in life. But what these companies do? They hire 19-year-olds and train them in soft skills. And they, in contemporary corporations, one of the biggest departments are HR departments, because they do trainings that they need, particularly for these jobs.
Yeah,
which is sad.
I think you're right, because once they asked Stephen Hawking, how many hours do you spend every week on your university? And he said less than 1 hour. It was a pity, because he was so engaged in social life, in social skills, and he loved doing things together with other people. But when I was young, in my city, we had a big, huge center for youth, and we had almost 2,000 young people coming together, doing things, doing cinemas, concerts, whatever. But it closed down just 20 years ago because no one went there anymore, because time changes. And, babies are playing with iPads before they can even speak. So we have a totally different time. So, and you're also right, on the job, they get trained to social skills, because teamwork is very important to companies. They don't want to have a single genius. Maybe that's good for the university, but not for the company, because they want to solve problems together with the team, to be competitive, to be highly effective. So, as you said, it's important. It's very important to have social skills. It's very important coming together and getting all those soft skills, yeah? And on the other hand, we have this development in our times now. And I think this is very challenging to build a bridge between those two needs.
Yeah, and I think the good examples of how important is the presence of students at the university was the consequences of the pandemic. Yeah? In the United States, several universities have dramatical drop in the number of candidates, because the people are ready to pay not only for getting the formal education, but also for having the networks, relations. And they think, okay, if I have no possibility to meet with people, the attractiveness of the study is much lower. I noticed in Krakow that in many universities, students resign after the first semester having only online activities. It was one of my daughter who said, okay, I will not study, I will change it, because it makes no sense to sit in front of the computer. I know nobody from my colleagues. I am looking at the very boring lectures. I could listen to these lectures as a father being at home, and it was the disaster for this generation. And so I think that probably the truth is between. So we have to change the way in which we organize our education to be more also connected with the industry, with the business, to organize the task solution. And we should also not forget that there are some competences which must be achieved during the long process of study. The medicine is the example. We cannot imagine that somebody will get this qualifications not in the long university study and getting through all the process. So probably the mixture, the future is somewhere between. Of course, it is important to upgrade the qualification later, so the university should be more open for it. We observe here at our university that there is quite high interest in postgraduate studies, and I like teaching there, because they are professionals who are about between 40 and 50 usually. They have a little bit more time. They achieved some position in companies, and they think, okay, it's time to upgrade our skills. So it's very good. But they also say, okay, it's good that we can meet together here, and they appreciate also coming from other parts of the country. They treat it as a good opportunity to spend weekend together outside. So I think that it is a space for us, although we need many changes in that. Okay, thank you very much for the very interesting. Some remarks to.
I give only one remark. Look at this room. Let's imagine this room is full of students. And each student is single, watching the back of the student before. There is no group atmosphere. There is no team. There is teacher here in front, and there are unknown faces of students. And if young people come to the university, I suggest that they are together in a room to look faces to faces, not with this organization of the room. And our university is not prepared for this. When I start my classes, not in aula, in small room, where the tables are also on this way that each one see the back of the previous person. I say, let's make around the tables and we are together, because if you are at the university, let's discuss, because my lecture I can give you as video and you can watch this when you want, or if you want at all.
This is called hidden curriculum. Hidden curriculum, it's something that we teach, but we don't intend to teach. And this was described by Philip Jackson in 1968 for the first time, but that in Sociology of Education, a famous book by Ronald Megan, he described the role of architecture in education. And by this way, we teach that you are a God. They're not important. They have to listen to you. And you are the one to tell them the truth. Yeah. And now nobody else knows the truth but you. And this is exactly what we should be doing in order to create a different environment for learning.
Just let me give you a personal input. A couple of years ago, I was fully aware of that input that you give now. And I had a lecture at the university about mental illness, something like that. And my aim was not to show a single slide in the whole session. Not a single slide in 6 months. So I invited every time, every week, another patient, another client with a mental illness, and I was not the guy who knew everything, so every student had the duty to ask the client about his mental illness and then to write a report about that. So the aula was crowded and no one could Google the results because it was an individual with an individual mental illness, and I didn't show a single slide because the theory could be read in books. That was very interesting because we had a lot of discussions about mental illness and about how people cope with that. And it was crowded. It was one of my best lectures I ever had. It was very dynamical. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for quite interesting examples of the creativity, which is very important here. Yeah. So when we look at the pandemic time, what I observed, it was that some positives, if they are. Some was the possibility to working in a small groups by students during the classes. So you can split them automatically in 3 or 4 person groups, and they have to work, discuss, and later present the results. So it is the answer for the with the problem of the big room where are a lot of students. Yeah, if you force them to, you give them the duties which should be done, and to ask also in some subject we have the necessity to make the interview with somebody who is connected with the subject. So they are responsible for making the interview, writing the report, and it's also changing the perspective. So I think it's very important just to go beyond the classes and to engage them in other forms. So the very practical way of keeping the engagement in this time was that I was giving the question before and later to point some person from the electronic audience. Yeah, so they complained because they could not watch the film during my lecture because they never knew when will be the question from me. But at least it was the participation in this lecture.
But it's also a question how we verify, how we evaluate students, what methods we use. And I stopped doing tests a few years ago, and I'm doing now, as a rule, 110% open book exam, which means they can bring everything to the classroom, including internet, and they can even talk during the exam to each other. I don't care. I just don't care about that. If they have time, they can talk, because in normal life, they have access to internet, and they talk to each other in the place of work. The question is, what kind of questions we give them? Recently, I had one student who, when they received questions, raised a hand and asked, can we have a test instead of these questions? Well, they are sometimes not used to open thinking.
Okay.
Then is the question, once again, of support of technology. We can manage the classes. It means the action of our students. Let's assume there are 20 persons in the room. And when we try to push them to take part on the discussion, they have 3 possibilities, each of them, to be passive. They don't take part on the discussion. And we know very well that in such a room, in such group, more or less 10 persons are passive. There are 10 persons who are active. And this person take part on the discussion, and they having the statement, own statement, delivered statement, they have 2 possibilities. They are satisfied with this, what they said, or after the statement, they noticed it was not correct. In the analog technology, we can give them 3 color jetons to put on the table ahead. The passive, positive, negative. And at the end, we can summarize the results, each of them. Of course, today with the technology, we can do this with application on smartphone. Each of them has smartphone, but the procedure is the same. And what is important for me, that students have enough encourage to give their own evaluation on the negative side. Because to give the positive, this is very easy. I am the best. But if I train, I have a possibility to make mistake, to present my opinion, which is not the proper one, and then I have to correct my own position. So this is the very important issue, to give them the chance to participate and to evaluate what they do.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I think that it's also our duty to make these passive students more active. Yeah, so it's okay when I see there's a discussion in group, and so I do not allow the same students to answer permanently. Yeah, because in other way it's the problem with the activity.
One remark concerning the technologies. We are very short before the situation that we install the so-called Google headsets with the augmented reality. And there is one very important issue. This is the physical and psychical acceptation of this technology by each person. And there is a risk that some person will not take part on the classes on the proper way due to of own individual capability or lack of this capability to get insight to the augmented reality. This is already reported that such problem exists.
Okay, thank you. So I think that we can now move to the second topic of our discussion, connecting to the question if we have alternative to a greater scope of collecting data on citizens in public databases. Yeah, we know, all of us know the positive and negative consequences of it. We have the problem with the situation where databases are stolen. It's also connected with some our universities. We hear that, okay, our database at some university was stolen. The data were taken by hackers. And the question is, what, as a society, should we go in this direction? It's also connected with the thinking about the public administration. Yeah, should be all digitalized, or should we keep some space which is protected from it? Yeah, for example, in Denmark, there are some new municipality offices which are created in this way, but there is no space to keep the papers, yeah, because they just want to force the office to have all electronic version. Yeah, so the question is, should we go in this direction? Is any opportunity to, any alternative to have the data on everything? In Poland, it's also now the discussion, because the government is uniting some databases about the society, so connects the data from your banking system, connecting the data with the taxes which you pay, with the health, and so it will be quite easy for somebody to get all information. Some of them are, of course, fragile, and what can we do? In our discussion, after this, we will have the time to questions from the audience, so please think what could be interesting, but now I would like to give the voice to our guests. Okay, maybe start from the left side.
Okay. The simple answer, do we have an alternative, is no. We don't. It is what it is. It's just the pace of changes. Do we use the system in a proper way? Yes and no. Well, it depends on your point of view. And of course, there are examples in public administration that technology is used against the people. And we know these examples from all over the world. But it depends on political system and the democratic system, on control. And as always, I mean, people have always used wrong things against the people. The governments, empires, they could use, and they have used, bad things against the people. It depends on who is in the government and what political system we live in. But On the other hand, we're talking now in Poland about shortage of electricity. It may happen in winter, not only in Poland, in Europe. Okay, we don't have electricity for 3 days. What happens? We cannot live. Do you have any money in pocket? Do you have enough money to buy food for a week? Well, you will not buy, because the store will not accept your money, because they will not be able to register the money, to give you a check. Oh, well, you will not go to the bank to get the money. You will not have any access to information. Suddenly, we're coming back to the discussion, what can happen, and to a discussion about the world we have forgotten about. I don't think we can forget about the paper. We can forget about the past. Technology will not replace everything, because there will always be crisis, something wrong happening, and we will have to have a backup. The question, in what form? We are running like crazy now for the technology. Building facilities without place for paper. We may be coming back because the world is changing in a way we're not sure really about.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paprocki.
I think that civilization has, at the moment, enough possibility to produce enough electricity. So, if we have a break, this is mismanagement. This is mistake. Sorry, how we managed. So it can happen locally, but this is not a future. This is not a structural problem. According to the question, are we controlled with all our data? This is the question. The answer is easy. The Communist Party of China is fair, giving the statement, we control everything. The public bodies in Poland are not fair if they use Pegasus and don't report about this. But they do, using the high technology. Or they did. So, in China, everyone knows that it works. In Poland, there are still some people who think that it doesn't work. This is the difference. Me personally, I assume it works. So I'm nudist, but I don't know about this. I am digital nudist. I don't have weirds anymore, because everybody knows almost everything. I showed this already sometimes in Krakow. Using Nokia, I am covered. But unfortunately, I have also Apple, because without this, you can't purchase ticket for tram in Krakow. So I want to protect myself, but this is not possible anymore. So what I want to say, the management of society was always connected with the control of people. And when I went to Lebanon, to the temple 6,000 or 7,000 years ago built. There was a place for an officer who controlled the queen. And she could imagine that she's not under control as a queen, but she was. All the day, all the night. So nothing has changed. The technology has changed. So we have to learn to live in this and focus more on positive side than on this negative side. As we learned from Professor 1 hour ago about all these uncertainties, I answer always. Let's imagine, this is the field of my research. You are a businessman, 1915, 107 years ago. You have a transport company distributing coal from the railway station to industry, small plants, and to the households. And you hear, hello, there is the first truck with engine, and I have my horses. And there is no European Union with funds to support the innovation, as we do. Without European funds, we don't do any innovation. This is not on the list, thank you, not. Yeah? It's crazy. All the time was innovation, you said, 200 years or 150 years of very quick changes. But this is 5 generations already as we live in changes. This is not our first young generation in changes. So this is typical. So take it easy. Every time it was so. Active people went ahead, and they will go ahead. And not active, they are in the second rear, and this is not very bad, because this is also standard. And we have a lot of countries where the level of life is very poor, and we, in Poland, 30 years we had improvements. And now we have time, unfortunately, this year, next year, perhaps 2 years next, that we will have problems. First time, after 30 years. So we have to say this is not only problem of technology, but this is also typical development and crisis in the system, which are in capitalistic system, they were in socialistic system, because this belongs to our life. This is not possible to have only improvement. Take it easy.
So, just a few comments. I was also teaching in Africa, in Uganda and in Burkina Faso, and I learned that, for example, African countries like Zimbabwe, from a digital point of view, are very developed. They have very good internet access, because they have very great distances, and they are very skilled and trained into distance learning. And as we are here now, excuse me the word, but we are dinosaurs. We are dying dinosaurs. I think the next generations, maybe in 25 years, in 50 years, they will have maybe a completely digital environment, because artificial intelligence is growing. Disruptive technologies are coming up. So it will be a completely different world. And I give an example. A couple of years ago, I was asked for a secret report. Now it's not anymore secret, so I can tell it about how can we detect terrorists at the Peninsula of Sinai. There are 3 million people, and we want to detect terrorists. You know the answer? It's quite simple. Use the cell phone and measure the heart rate. Everyone has a cell phone. Everyone has video games. And you can use them to detect the heart rate, because there is a connection, a correlation between a possible terrorist and heart rates. So the cell phone is used also for these purposes, and we already discussed it a couple of years ago to detect terrorists. So we are using parameters that you cannot even imagine about it. You showed the slide about face detection from China. Oh, this is very old stuff. In the meanwhile, they are using more than 100 parameters in judging people. For example, they found out that who drives the Harley Davidson has a lower intelligence rate than the medium. It's quite interesting. So they're using more than 100 parameters judging a person, not only face detection. So it's just we are in the future, but you don't know about it very much because you are not engaged in those questions. They are using already these technologies in a total different way that you can't even imagine. So just a comment on it.
Yeah, and you know, just to comments to it, let's look at using the technologies for collecting data about our behavior, preferences, and what happened, for example, in campaign during the Brexit or during the election, the presidential campaign in the United States. Yeah, the people are receiving the information which are profiled to them because of the usage of this big data system. Yeah, so this is very dangerous for the democracy.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So I give an example. So once I was on a plenum like this one, and the guy left to me was from the government, from the prosecution. And he said to me, hey, you know, Professor Jacomusi, we wired you a couple of times ago, but you see, we thought that you are clean. And I said, oh, yes, thank you. Just to have an idea about that.
Just a comment. I fully agree with Professor Paprocki that take it easy. This has always been the case that the government wanted to control us. And this will remain. Just the technology changed. And because it's changing so fast, we got used to the changes, and a change became something stable for us. If there is no change, this is a not normal situation. And also, I wanted to refer this topic to what's happening in cities, in public administration on a city level, because in Poland, we are gadget addicted. We love gadgets. We have 2, 3 cell phones, the newest television, and you know, it's fun. And it's the same on a city level. Look at what's happening with the concept of smart city. City governments invest a lot of money in technology. They install different systems that they don't know what to do with. They have sometimes no idea what to do with the data they get from these systems. They spend fortunes on measuring things they don't know for what. And it's really important for universities to take a lead, that's my personal opinion, to take a lead in a discussion how to use technologies to really support decision-making systems in public sphere. Because in private, they will always use a profit-oriented approach. If something doesn't make sense in terms of profit, they will not do it. In public sphere, it's more complicated. We should take a lead to help public institutions to use technology in a smart way.
Small remark. You said the city, town authorities, they collect data, or they can collect data, and they don't have idea how to use it. And now I would like to come back to the question, what is or should be university? We can train young people in field of data science. But what does it mean, data science? That I understand which data is connected with which future of real life. because I managed real life, not virtual life. I don't manage data. I use data as a tool to manage the processes. And how to give young people the possibility to understand their real life, not data. As I was a young man, as a student, there were a lot of classes with technology, this very, very old analog technology, to understand that in transport, for example, you have limits. It means the track can't be too high because there are bridges, there are lines of electricity and so on. So you, okay, in States you can, because in States there are long distances without any bridges. But this is special. In Arabic countries you have this in Africa as well. But here in Europe, you must understand that these limits in Switzerland are different, because this is a lot of bridges, than in other countries. So what I learned to say, this is our obligation at the university to give this message to young people. This is not possible to be specialist in data science. You can be specialist of data science in field of medicine, mobility, urbanization, whatever. But this is impossible to be specialist in everything. And you have to understand that data science is the knowledge which is only a tool, and this tool you can use if you understand what is used for. And this is very important from my point of view, how we should discuss with young people, because sometimes they can't understand this relationship.
Okay, so my final remark before we move to the discussion part, it's also connected with the necessity of the public regulations, which I think crucial for usage the data and other sources, and referring to the problem of energy. You know, when we allow that the big chain technology is used, and we use a lot of electricity just to make the Bitcoin, yeah, which is something strange. Yeah, it's for me, it's the disaster from the ecological point of view. We use real resources. Yeah, we fire the coal just to use the electricity for computers, which are making something what has no real value. Yeah, the value of Bitcoin is something crazy, used often by the black sphere. It was the examples of payment, the money to the hackers or to the other organizations. Just the lack of some solutions. Okay, now it's the time for the comments, discussion from the audience. You have the opportunity to do it. Who would like to comment or to ask our guests? Okay.
Okay, so I have a question. How can we sustain our relationships and the communities meeting offline during while the main goal of the big tech companies is to move everything into the metaverse, to the online world, and just limit our offline meetings and move everything to the internet sphere?
My answer would be you cannot. It's just a different... I have a friend who, in Krakow, since March 2020, so it's been 2.5 years, She's been in the office 3 times for 1 hour, not longer. And she's been online for 2.5 years. She is in a complicated psychological situation. She's losing energy. It's a problem. We don't have solutions yet. Another thing is that you mentioned that we are dinosaurs. Well, we are digital immigrants, our generation. The new generation that is becoming adults, these are digital natives. So I think their approach will be different because they have lived online since they remember. The first, you know, when you look at 2-year-old child looking at the book, usually a real book, the child is surprised that he or she has to move the pages, that it's not a picture like on tablet or computer. They are used to technology from the very beginning, and they will have a different approach to live, to work online. They will be able to build communities, probably. That's what I can imagine. We cannot. We are just too old. We cannot change. Sorry for, I think we are too old. But most of us here in this room are digital immigrants.
Okay, but we can consider 2 different changes. The first one is there is enthusiasm that we will have improvements or huge improvements in the technology, and it was promised that it will happen, metaverse. Okay, perhaps. But in my field of research, there was a question of autonomous car. It was promised 15 years ago, and it was even said 2019 we will have autonomous cars on roads and streets in USA. And then came September 2019, and John Krawczyk, the CEO of Waymo, the subsidiary company of Google, of Alphabet, said, sorry, we can't. We expected to get this goal, but it seems that this is not possible. And I confirm today, 2022, there are no autonomous cars. We have tests with such cars. But between tests and commercial utilization, there are huge differences. And I don't see a next future that we will drive a robo-taxi. It means I will leave the room here, I have to go anywhere in Krakow, and robo-taxi will move or will transport me to the place where I am going to visit. So this is not the next future. And with metaverse, it seems to be similar. There will be a lot of tests, but this is such complicated that the popularization like smartphone with Internet 2.0 and the switch to Internet 3.0, this is long distance to the future.
Okay. And I also think that there is a problem with our psychology, that we like for hundreds of years we are living together in a community, and if we want to try to break the connections, is what Krzysztof was talking, and I know a lot of people who have such similar problem, they are alone, it's very bad for the young people, they should find the partners, and they are sitting at home. Now the companies are thinking, okay, even if there is no pandemic, we will keep it people at home because it's cheaper. We will save the energy. We will save the space. Yeah, when I talk with the managers in global business services units in Krakow, okay, they say, no, we will not use the same space because it makes no sense, at least 50% of it, because people can work at home, sometimes come, and I observe my son is going to work once a week, yeah, and he's happy because for 1.5 years he was sitting at home and have only the virtual meetings and so on. So we don't know what are the consequences of it in longer perspective.
I would say tragic. It's also connected with private life. I mean, imagine you are 30, single, interested in finding maybe a wife or a husband, but you sit at home all day working online. Where will you meet your husband or wife? I mean, I'm serious. I noticed that.
So this is also the positive aspect of the university. This is a good chance. There are reports about Tinder. And what is the disadvantage which was learned now? Look my body. I am not perfect. Do you agree? Yeah? I look at ladies over there. Each of you are beautiful. Believe me. You don't see this on your mirror. So, in Tinder, you present not as you are, but you present imagination which you would present to potential partner. I am this person who look for wife, and every time, this is already my experience, I see potential partner in Tinder, it comes to the first meeting, and it is not the same person. And I see that this is everything virtual life. And I need real life wife. I have 40 years. But this is real life wife with all problems which she has and I have as a husband. So this is the disadvantage of this virtual life, that we are in imagination, we dream, and reality is very, very specific. I don't like to use other words.
But still, that would be end of society, I think.
Okay.
I can remember in the 90s, I saw a movie with Sandra Bullock ordering some pizza on the computer. I was laughing. I said, what she's doing? When I want my pizza, I go to the shop, I buy my pizza, I sit there in the Italian restaurant and I eat my pizza. And now it's reality. So we are ordering the pizza via our cell phones and so on. And Mark Zuckerberg now is promoting the metaverse. But have you ever used those Googles? I get dizzy. After 3 minutes, I get dizzy using those Googles, not seeing only a virtual reality. So maybe this is a biological threshold. Maybe there's a biological threshold that we cannot use those Googles for hours and days. Yeah? Maybe there has to be another technology, maybe a laser technology. But Googles, in my opinion, from a biological, from a psychological point of view, can't be the solution, because at least I go dizzy. I go dizzy, like my head is like this after 20 minutes using those augmented Googles. So maybe it's a biological threshold. As you say, you want a real wife. You want a real husband, a potential partner, as he is in real life, and not an avatar on Tinder or something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, please.
Thank you for your talk. I listened very carefully. I'm from a university, Graz in Austria. And I have some philosophical, maybe, question. We see development of technologies, but we don't see human nature change. My grandmother, she's 90 years old, and she said, yeah, we see technology, every day we see new technologies, but human nature is the same. So technology doesn't change human nature. And I want to know your opinion about this. Does technology change human, not behavior, not human lifestyle, but human nature? This is first. And the second question, I was in Kenya last summer. I spent 3 months in Kenya. And in Kenya, there is no very poor internet connection and there is no iPhone. But people are very happy without technologies, very happy. And then I ask, but I see international organizations such as United Nations, European Union, they criticize Kenya for less technological development. But I saw it's from these people, I saw like, maybe this country doesn't need these technologies. People are very happy without these technologies. But why international community criticize this country for to be less technological development? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I start?
Yeah, please.
I hope, well, the first question is purely philosophical, and I don't think we have any data, quantitative data to answer this. I hope not. I mean, I hope technology will not change the nature. It may change behavior, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the new generation that is born with a cell phone, that is born with a computer, and is, well, I would paraphrase, is born online. I don't know. And we probably should come back to this question in 10, 15 years. With the second question, I was so happy a few days ago when I I was in the States, and I turned off my 2, 3 telephones. And no one was calling me. No one sent me messages. I was so happy. I felt relaxed. I felt relieved. And then, when I got 100 messages at one time, I was frustrated, angry. Of course, technology can be overwhelming. Why? I mean, people are happy in Kenya. And I was happy when I was 20 and I had no technology with me. And I spent 2 months in the forest in summer. But why the Western world is criticizing Kenya? Technology is a means of conquering. You cannot conquer economically, politically, without technology now. That's absolutely normal. This is business, nothing personal. And this is how Western world understands development and progress. This is a difference in point of view. And of course, with someone living in Pacific Ocean on an island without technology, without knowing even about technology, is not happy, of course, they are happy in their own understanding. It's a difficult political question also. But nothing personal, just business.
Okay. Thank you. Please.
Maybe it's also a question of the socialization process in Africa, because you have a little wisdom, because Africans say, oh, Europeans have the clock, but we have the time. As you said, I had 100 messages after these 3 days and I got frustrated, and there's a wisdom in it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the time is slowly going to the end of our session. So, any question or comments? We have the space only for one. Okay, so thank you very much for very interesting comments and your idea. I would like to thank you for participating in our conference. It was a pleasure to host you during these days. It was the summary of our 3 years research project, and you can find a different research group. I hope that some works will be continue later, where I'm happy that it was only partly online. So in our conference day, only 2 people were presenting online. The rest had the opportunity to meet together. It was a great value for all of us. So thank you for coming, and now it's the time for the lunch. Thank you.